Just when I knew my day as the only tourist at Hadrian's villa near Rome was coming to an end, I decided to find a souvenir. Throughout the afternoon, amid the haunted and haunting domestic ruins of someone else's home who lived here in the 2nd century AD, I explored the complex of buildings, sending wild cats and bats scattering. I'd considered pocketing a fist-sized piece of the crumbling Terme Grande, or main bath, but knew better than to remove anything from someone's home, ancient or modern. While sitting by the dining hall, where Emperor Hadrian had eaten meals like any homeowner, petting his adored dogs, all entombed on the property, and pining for his lost love, Antinous, I realized I was in the shade of an olive tree, dense with black teardrops of fruit. I decided then my souvenir of the villa would be finger-length branches, one for me, others for friends and my parents. Suddenly, during my inspection of the trees, a white and brown dog appeared. I called her in Italian, and she galloped over, hurling herself into me, crossing her paws over my outstretched arms, licking the salt from the backs of my hands. She positioned herself against my legs as if magnetized to me. I patted her skinny, firm sides, her coat silky and warm from her day in the late fall sun. I followed her on her explorations into Corinthian columned temples, beneath exclamations of rocketing cypresses, to aqueduct-fed pools from which she lapped. When I called her, she'd turn, furiously wag her tail in acknowledgement, but it would quickly droop, and she'd continue on what seemed a purposeful journey. She was content with the affection I'd shown, polite enough to let me know she was grateful. Longer ago, a different trip. As a student backpacking through Europe, I came to the windy port town of Brest, France. June, the city was in bloom. The walkways pointillist canvases of fragrant pink and white cherry blossom petals. I decided to call my mother because I was homesick. I fed francs into a payphone until I heard the rings in my boyhood home in Illinois. I knew, too, she would be feeling as I, alone, a silent Sunday. Only months earlier, her marriage to my father had ended. The final act involved a scene I wish I hadn't witnessed. It was a weekend afternoon, and my father told me to back out my mother's car so he could pull his from the driveway. He was going out, he said, wearing coat and tie. At the wheel of the idling car in the street, waiting for my father to emerge from the house, I watched instead my mother, clad in a bathrobe, trace the pathway from the front door to his car. She carried a hammer. She got into his car, a new Cadillac, and in a fury of thrashings smashed every dashboard dial. Despite broken mirrors and the now useless readings, he still found his way to a new, charged life. My mother and I spoke only seconds before I'd emptied my pockets of the coins and the line went dead, but long enough to let her know where my wanderings had brought me. I scooped up a handful of the fallen petals and mailed them to her. Years later, having to empty her home, I found the now browned petal souvenirs in that same envelope, also Hadrian's olive branch. At the villa exit, the dog appeared to be waiting for me. Her row of teats indicated she had other duties to perform. And I wondered, too, whether distant ancestors of hers had belonged to the emperor, once roaming this very property. The wind sent acorns raining to the ground and bouncing off her back. She looked up at me, wagged her tail, then bounded off, passing the tombs of Hadrian's dogs, contorting herself through an opening in an ancient wall and out into the expanse of ruins she knew well as her home.